Welcome to Revive at Home. Great to be with you today. We're going to do something a little bit different, hopefully a bit fun today. I'm going to take you on holiday with me and my family. We spent some time in the UK in the last year, and I'm going to show you some of that footage from, we make a series called Supernatural, and it's all finding parables from God in the adventures that we have as a family. And this latest one is about going around the English countryside, and while we're having fun, we slowly discover an amazing spiritual reality. The country is covered in amazing abbeys and monasteries, and it began to stir something of a longing in me to ask God, do these monastic prayer communities need to arise again? And that's kind of where we're going today. And whether it's literally a monastery, a place to pray in the countryside, or a monastery in your heart, I want us to think about the principles of monastic living and how we can grow in them today. So, hey, let's go on holiday. Join us on the latest episode of Supernatural. Here you go. Stick with it. In the second half, we begin to discover these amazing spiritual realities across the country. Then I'm going to come back, talk a little bit more, and give you some questions to discuss. See you in a minute. It's another soggy holiday in the lakes. It's stunning though, even in the rain. It was 2021, and lockdowns in the UK because of the COVID pandemic meant we still weren't going to get abroad. So we climbed in the car and travelled all over the north of England. That meant beautiful countryside, locomotive trains, log fires, healthy food and sometimes less healthy food, unusual discoveries. And Zach had a birthday treat from his uncle and aunt to drive sports cars. Good heavens, what fun! Awesome. Whoa, he's going fast! While the days were spent having fun, the nights were spent in log cabins with hot tubs in the beautiful British forests. Idyllic. Well, here we are, arriving at our log cabin with hot tub in a Yorkshire forest. Going in. That was cruel. I think they say at Revo Abbey. While hot tubs and sports cars are great, on this trip we really discovered something deeply spiritual in the English countryside. Britain is dotted with ancient monasteries and abbeys hiding in forests and valleys and on cliff tops.
old communities disbanded some 500 years ago that had been communities for solitary prayer, places where men and women sought to escape the world or find victory over the world, places to encounter God deeply. They were all destroyed between 1536 and 1540 at the instruction of the then king. It was called the suppression of the monasteries. But as we walked around the stunning ruins, imagining the years of prayer that had soaked into the walls, the people that had laid their lives, their nation, their country before God in this time, the encounters that people would have had, I can't help thinking 500 years after the suppression of the monasteries, I wonder if there's going to be a revival of the monasteries in our land. There seems to be more of a hunger than ever for people to encounter God, to get away from the mad world and the crazy pace of life, to find a place to meet God and to meet others who want to meet God. I think these wonderful places may just be revived in our time. Is there going to be a revival of the monasteries? Many would think so. Vicky and I are praying quite a lot about finding a place in the country where we can create community with people who want to meet God every day. Wouldn't it be incredible to be in God's presence, to experience His glory, to get away from the distractions of the world, just like Jesus did when He went up those incredible mountains, but then to be able to step out into the world, empowered and refreshed by God once again. Would God use us to play a part in the revival of the monasteries? How lovely is your dwelling place, O God. Better is one day in your courts than 1,000 elsewhere. I would rather be a doorkeeper in the house of my God than dwell in the tents of the wicked. If that's your heart, maybe you too need to find some monastery, some mountain, some space in your life to meet God. It is a little bit like a hot tub in a forest, isn't it? Imagine a hot tub with God, a place of encounter to be refreshed. We all need it. Somehow find yours. God is waiting to meet you there.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that. Think of it. Places to meet God, whether they're a space in our home, a little routine in life, or, as we've said, a geographical place away from it all where we can encounter God. Do we need monastic Christian lifestyles to arise again in the world? I would say we do. There's 5 key principles, I would say, that I've discovered so far of monastic living that might just be really important in our world. And let's see, how do we incorporate them into our lives, or what value could be found in even creating a place that helps these things to happen? Here's the 5 things. Number 1, monasteries are about silence. We live in such a noisy world. And in fact, many of us are noisy people. Many don't even like the sound of their own souls, or would even recognize the sound of their own souls. I would say many of us are busy, and we never stop and slow down. And of course, our world is full of voices, the voice of social media, the voice of media, the voice of friends and family and things to do and things to sort out. I do wonder if sometimes we are never quite at peace because we never work out the voices that are stirring in our souls. We're never silent enough to work out what's the voice of flesh, the voice of the devil, or the quietest, often whispering voice of all is the voice of God. And we're never quiet enough to discern what's the enemy, the flesh, the pressures of the world, and then that wonderful thing, the voice of God. Man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds from the mouth of God, the New Testament says. I mean, if we are going to know the Rhema, living voice of God, we have to learn to be silent again. And monasteries, very often in the countryside, in a valley, on a cliff top, were quiet places to get away from the noise of the world. Do we need that? I would say we do. The second thing is they were places of daily prayer. St. Benedict said this: prayer should therefore, I like this, be short and pure, unless perhaps it is prolonged under the inspiration of divine grace. We need to learn to pray good quality, short prayers. I do sometimes wonder, we think, well, it's got to be long and it's got to be deep in order for it to be authentic and meaningful. Actually, developing practices of short, pure prayer is something that maybe some of us need to learn. Daily prayer, but it doesn't have to be an hour. It can be 10 minutes of really good quality contemplation of God. Man, it would transform our worlds, wouldn't it? Here's a third thing, Lectio Divina, which is a posh way of saying reading the Bible really slowly. Not rushing through it, not getting through our daily quota, but letting the scripture go deep into our souls. Number 4, places of humility and simplicity. I read this earlier, that the monasteries were places of detachment from worldly pursuits and a place to enjoy the contemplation of God. Again, our world, especially Western consumerism, is so rammed with stuff that our flesh hankers after and that we are led to believe that we need. St. Benedict said, the first step is that a monk keeps the fear of God always before his eyes. Oh, that we would have the space to fear God instead of be drawn into the addictive pressures of the crazy world around about us. That's what monasteries did. The 5th one, they were places of authentic community. In a world that is more connected yet lonelier than ever, places where we could quietly live simply, focus on God, and then enjoy true, deep community. Isn't that what we need? All these things are monastic living. I'll say them again: silence, daily prayer, Lectio Divina, the slow reading of scripture, humility and simplicity, and then authentic community. I would say whether we're in a busy city and we find a way to do it in our homes, or whether we actually find places to help us build these practices into our world, we need monastic living once again. I'm going to let you discuss now how you might build a monastery in your heart, a monastery in your home, or a monastery in a place. Is God calling? Many are doing this around the world. Is God calling us to almost rebuild monastic living in countryside places as once was, or in the middle of cities, places of almost divine stillness in a busy world? I think we need this, and so I want to challenge our hearts and our heads to think, how can I regain some of the ancient monastic living that's been missing for 500 years? Have a discussion, have a pray, and I pray, if anything, this would happen. We would begin to build monasteries in our homes and hearts of silence, daily prayer, the slow reading of scripture, humility and simplicity, and authentic community. I hope you've enjoyed today. Enjoy your discussion, and I'll see you soon.